Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. It's Thursday, August 29th, the final Thursday without regular season NFL football. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by my co-host, Mr. Denny Carter. And even though we're only a week away, we're still probably many drafts away. I think I have seriously 3 drafts still. Don't tell my wife.
I won't.
She's expecting me to actually, quote, raise the children occasionally. And I will, quote, not be doing that.
You're working. This is, you say, look, I'm entering the mines. I'm doing a draft. This is what I do.
It is. I'm drafting nonstop between now and next Thursday. We're assuming a lot of our listeners are. I'm hoping Denny Carter is. I don't know if he's gone woke and doesn't even do real drafts anymore. He's only best ball. Denny doesn't do managed leagues anymore.
Yeah, you always think that. I mean, I'm not a guy who's doing 25 redraft leagues, but I do like 6 or 8.
I'm in like 10 or 11, which is a lot. But so we're going to be drafting a lot, and we thought it'd be fun today. Using sleeper ADP, we thought a good happy medium between the more hardcore and maybe the more casual services. And just by ADP, we're going to go through the first 10 rounds and just say what our favorite pick is in each of those first 10 rounds. A little bit similar to like building our dream team that we did last Thursday with Kyle Dvorak and Andy Behrens. Yeah, this is different. And just like the players in that range we love, that we are trying to draft the most, probably missing on a lot. We're going to get to that one second. But Denny, so you may notice my shirt.
I did.
It's a Mizzou Tiger shirt. That's because college football season starts today. And yet I don't see your Terps shirt or any really semblance or sign of Terp pride. That's why, again, why are you not an American? Why do you not celebrate college football the way I and Steven and Adam do?
I have no allegiance to the school from which I graduated.
Very curious.
I don't even understand that.
No, I don't either. So many are saying it makes no sense.
I paid to go to the school, and when I graduated, I was done with the school.
Very interesting.
That's that. I don't know. I mean, it was near my house. That's why I went there.
Do you at least have a Gary Williams shrine in your room?
Of course. We have 2, actually.
What was the really good player on that team? Juan something on the national Juan Dixon on the 2002 national champion Terps basketball team. So as long as you have a shrine to Juan Dixon and Gary Williams, then I guess your Terp card has not been revoked.
And Joe Smith from the 90s.
I can't believe you're not watching every Terps football game. It's such riveting stuff. The fake Tungavaloa brother for 9 years was your quarterback. Yeah.
Right. The other Tungavaloa has been starting since 1999. Amazing run here.
He's a Terp for life. He is a Terp forever.
You got to respect it.
You do have to respect that from Taulia. I believe that's how he pronounces his first name. But Murray State, Mizzou will have played probably by the time you're listening to this. Mizzou's 49.5 point favorites. As a Mizzou fan, I would say, not only am I worried we're not going to cover, I am still worried we're going to lose out.
To
the Racers.
We're going to
lose to the Racers.
You're not going to lose. Obviously, you're going to win by 12. That's what you're going to win.
We will win 31-10, where it looks convincing to anyone who didn't know the spread.
Right.
It also looks still like, man, I feel like Mizzou probably should have won by more than 3 touchdowns. And then we go 1-3.
Whatever it is, you will be unsatisfied.
I've never witnessed any Mizzou sporting event and been satisfied at the end.
You've never walked away and said, and I feel good about this team.
No, you never have a lust for life after watching Mizzou athletics. But you will have a lust for life after drafting some of these players. And Denny, let's just get right into it. Round 1, the most critical round. Some fantasy sports, like fantasy baseball, round 1 is very important. But if you bomb your round 1 pick, it is quite survivable. It's survivable in fantasy football, but I mean, your advancement, your playoff odds go way down if you get a lemon in round 1. And so very, very important pick. All the best players are available. Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, so on and so forth. They are not your favorite pick of the first 12. Who is your favorite pick of round 1 right now?
I listed Justin Jefferson, and it's mostly because I think he's going a little later than he should, and that sounds funny because he's going like 5 or 6. But I think that there's a case to be made he could go number 1 overall because of the volume he's going to see in a Minnesota offense that just inherently, naturally, in its natural state, this Minnesota offense is going to be pass first. And when you add the fact that this team's not going to be good and they're going to be chasing points for much of the season, then you're talking about lots of passing, lots of attempts. With Nick Mullins under center last year, Jefferson saw almost 50% of the team's air yards. I think that he has a chance to get there with Jordan Addison, of course, chipping in that regard. But, just everything that you want, volume, a player who is great after the catch, a player who is dominant on downfield shots. You get all of that with Jefferson. Saying that, I do want to tell the listeners that I am taking Tyreek Hill over Justin Jefferson.
Wow, really? So saying all that, you then say it's never been more over somehow.
No,
extolling the virtues of Justin Jefferson. And I'm not even actually taking him.
No, that's not.
I haven't taken him at all ever.
So once. Tyreek's never there even at 3. Okay, at 3 he's no longer there because he goes right after CMC. So when I get Jefferson at 5 or 6 or sometimes even 7, I feel great. I feel great about it. I feel like that's like a slam dunk pick. I will say I think Tyreek has a chance to do something sort of special in a Dolphins offense that now has Skinny Tua under center. And I think that does change things.
I think Skinny Tua changes things here in the United States of America. Yeah. With Justin Jefferson at 5, I feel like they're giving away dimes or nickels for dimes. I don't know if I'm doing that right.
That's good monetary policy.
It just feels like such a bargain that something must be wrong. And you highlighted there is something wrong. It's Sam Darnold under center. But again, we saw this guy put up big numbers with Nick Mullins, with Josh Dobbs. Not a ton with Josh Dobbs. I don't think there was a ton of overlap. No. Jaron Hall, I'm sure he would have posted numbers with. And it's kind of something you should not do to just venerate at the altar of coach. Like Kevin O'Connell has been great for 2 years with Kirk Cousins. We had one of the most pass-happy quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's like assume like Kevin O'Connell was like the biggest factor in that, his supposedly pass-happy ways. But sure, it looks like Kevin O'Connell is one of the most pass-happy coaches in the NFL and can make someone like Sam Darnold relevant. And Justin Jefferson, to me, is the best skill player in the NFL. And even Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb, in a vacuum, I would say Justin Jefferson is the best skill player and has the best odds to finish number 1 overall. I think even this year, I think he has the best odds because he's just the best player. And it's not like the situation is that bad. And I feel like I'm getting such a bargain because he frequently – so his ADP is 4th, but he frequently falls beyond 4th.
Yeah.
People are taking Jamar Chase over him. They're taking Breece Hall over him. Some people are even taking Bijan over him. He doesn't usually fall below 6 or 7. But yeah, I just feel like I'm getting like the bargain of a lifetime every time I get Justin Jefferson in like that 5 to 8 range.
Yeah, it just seems it seems like people are overthinking a little bit because of the Darnold factor. I mean, you know where I stand on Darnold.
He's horrible. I know you think he's good, but he's horrible.
All right, I don't want to overstate. I mean, as folks get into their actual real life drafts, home league drafts, whatever, I'm going to try to be a little more earnest. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, Darnold is fine substitute for Cousins. He's better than Cousins." I'm not going to say that. I want to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Yes.
What I will say is that Darnold. I'm very confident that Darnold is much better than Nick Mullins, and Justin Jefferson was really solid with Nick Mullins last year.
I'm not trying to do this as a bit. I'm trying to be earnest too. I wouldn't be shocked if Sam Darnold is not better than Nick Mullins.
Really?
I do think he's better than Nick Mullins, but there's a lot of hoping and praying going on with Sam Darnold. I will just say, because the only time he got extended run, I mean, he was just one of the worst quarterbacks we had seen in a long time, like especially in this pass-happy era. He just was not it with the New York Jets at all. The one time he was functional with the Panthers, it was one of the most run-heavy teams of the decade. Like his efficiency was good. It's because he was passing like 19 times a game, and every time he was passing, it was in really advantageous passing situations. Yeah. The Vikings have kind of hinted at a run-heavier approach. Kevin O'Connell was like almost literally winking at the camera the other day. He was just like, people think we're not going to run the ball. We'll see about that. And then he kind of leaned in and winked.
Yeah, kind of gave the game away, Kevin.
Yeah, he did. But it's so hard to do with Aaron Jones and Ty Chan. I think it would be good for Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson if they could really establish a run. But I don't think that's going to be possible with those two runners. So I kind of would just worry about all that. The obvious passing situations will just not be good for the guy who said on national TV he sees pass rushing ghosts.
Yeah, but he probably regrets saying that, Darnold.
He does. Yeah. I have enough faith in Kevin O'Connell though, where I'm not pro Sam Darnold, but I'm not fading Justin Jefferson. They will figure it out. he seems like enormous value in the first round. Denny, who is your favorite pick round 2, which is 13 to 24 range?
I know, I was struggling with this one because I didn't want to take someone who sometimes goes at the end of the first in a 12-team league. I didn't want to cheat, in other words.
Yeah.
I would never cheat. You know that if you know me. And so I took Drake London here. I picked Drake London. And this is a somewhat new development for me because I wasn't exactly hammering Drake London all offseason in best ball or whatever. But I've warmed up to him because I've studied the numbers and I've looked at the math. And it seems like Drake London could be a guy who is really good with an upgraded quarterback situation. I don't think we fully appreciate just as a fantasy football community how bad the QB situation was in Atlanta. I mean, you have Desmond Ridder not being able to make the 53-man roster in Arizona. Okay, like Clayton Tune beat him out. No offense to Clayton, he's a big fan of the show. Clayton.
Huge. In fact,
Shout
he's going to
out.
come on today, but yeah, he won the job. He won the job, so now we can't talk. So.
I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry, Clayton, but Desmond Ridder, not an NFL caliber quarterback. Taylor Heineke, clearly not an NFL quarterback. No, come on.
Well, I mean, maybe
Heineke would be like the second or third best UFL quarterback. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That actually scans.
Yeah. So that's how bad Desmond Ridder and Kyle Pitts have had it. We mentioned this stat and it bears repeating. And you guys, if you listen to the show frequently, thank you. But also you're sick of this stat. With Cousins in the fold in Atlanta, you're looking at about 10 more catchable targets per game to spread around. That's huge. That's huge. Insane. Okay. That's 170, maybe more, depending on how things go over the course of a season. You have an aggressive play caller, a Sean McVay disciple, calling plays for Atlanta. So I think Drake London is just quietly a very, very good pick and could easily be your wide receiver 1 if you go with a running back in the first round.
I totally agree. And it wasn't just the quarterback situation. Like, you got the sense with Arthur Smith where even if he had a passable quarterback, he just loves Neolithic football, and he just wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to do what his skill core demanded of him, which was to air it out or to at least spread out the offense and get Bijan Robinson in space, get Kyle Pitts mismatches, get Drake London. He didn't do any of it. He just didn't do it. The environment was as bad as humanly possible, and it paired with quarterback play, as you laid out, that was just as bad as humanly possible. And it's always tough. We know fantasy football is the game of predicting the future and not just hitting repeat on last year, because that would be an easy way to lose. And so, but it's so hard in the second round, the 1-2 turn. Sometimes Drake London's not usually getting that high, but to take someone who's just never quite really done it. And Drake London, despite being good, has never quite really done it. But as hard as it is, you have to put that in the past. And you don't want to get too deep into alibi making, because a lot of things that still seem like genuine excuses are just alibis for lack of production. Because guess who you don't have to make alibis for? The people who actually produce. Right. And there's plenty of people who actually produce in bad situations. So it's not everyone who gets thrown into a Sam Darnold or even a Taylor Heineke situation doesn't produce. But it's very, very hard. And I just think Drake London's alibis are compelling enough that I agree. He's not actually my pick, though, by the way, but you can give a final thought on Drake London, then I'll give you my pick.
Yeah, just real quick. He is pretty good at commanding targets, not like elite in that category, but good enough where I think that he is going to separate himself from the rest of the pass catchers in this Atlanta offense. And he's a guy, I think, who right now folks might say Drake London's going in the second round as a shock, saying, well, I would have thought that you could get him in the third or fourth round, right? And I think that by October or November, people are going to be saying, I got Drake London in the second round, as in, how did he not go in the first? Because I do think that the upside is that great here.
Denny, will it never be more over if in week 1, Drake London and Darnell Mooney's target shares are within 2 to 3 percentage points of each other?
That would
never be more over then.
That would be dispiriting, but we are looking forward to that not happening.
So my guy in round 2, we don't need to talk about a long time because he's the only player we've talked about all summer, and it is Devin Achane, who I've been putting my money where my mouth is and taking in the second round. And seriously, every draft I've done. The ADP just never really ballooned. He stayed right there on that 2-3 turn, kind of like every style of league, expert, a home league, best ball, redraft. He can't really elevate beyond like the early 20s, 2-3 turn territory. But so Drake London has upside, but in this 13 to 14 range, Garrett Wilson goes in the first round a lot. You got Marvin Harrison, who's never played in the NFL. You have Puka Nacua, kind of strange injury vibes. Our friend Greg Rosenthal, talk about winking, just basically said, like, a guy told me not to take him. And did you see that?
I did see that. That was a clip. Yeah, Greg Rosenthal seemed to possibly have some information about Puka Nacua's injury status that is not on the good side.
No. And then it's ETN, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry. I love Derrick Henry, but there's not really unknown upside there. You have a quarterback in Josh Allen, which Denny and I aren't doing. Devontae Adams, Chris Olave. I just don't see the league winning upside. Maybe with Chris Olave, it's there. Devin Achane, the upside is, I don't need to talk about it anymore. It's just self-evident. So is the downside. But round 2, like a lot of these guys aren't even like safe production to bank. They're injury risks. They're Kyron Williams, and they're like a lose their job risk. And I'm just going to swing for the fences with Devin Achane in round 2. That's what I cannot stop doing. What I can now start doing, Denny, is asking about round 3, picks 25 to 36. Who is your favorite pick in the 3rd round range?
Yeah, my favorite in the 3rd round right now, it's Jaylen Waddle. Although I do really like the 3rd round values. I will
take us through some of those real quick. The other picks. I have it up if you do not.
I'll
Travis Kelce, Mr. Taylor Swift, Brandon Ayuk, Isaiah Pacheco, who it's never been more over for, Deebo Samuel, who would like to know if Brandon Ayuk will be his teammate.
Yes,
Mike Evans. Anytime you can draft a 32-year-old coming off an outlier career, you have to do it. Sam Laporta, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll just talk about Waddle real quick. So my theory, my working theory with the Dolphins is that they're going to be not bad this year, but less good. And I think that they're going to have a lot less positive game script on their side, and that is going to force the issue with Mike McDaniel. Now, for as forward looking as McDaniel is, and he is, and we love him. He's our nerd king. Okay. Although looking less nerdy now with a beard and
he's gotten too rich and famous. He's starting to like wear like Tom Ford.
He got paid once and completely looks very, very different. I will say that so he is a Shanahan disciple in that when you have script on your side, when you have a lead, you're not throwing it.
No.
And Dolphins were very conservative with the football with the lead last year. I think that they're not going to be in that position so much this year because they bled defensive talent in the offseason to the point where I think this defense could be a major issue for the team itself. Now, I don't care. Despite having a Dolphins helmet right above me, I don't care about the Dolphins.
No.
If they have
we want them to be bad at defense.
I do. I truly want them. A bad Miami defense and Mike McDaniel having to step on the gas throughout for 60 minutes a game. That's awesome. I just realized we don't want them down like 2 scores though, because Tua in an obvious passing situation and he's sacked. No, see that's where skinny Tua comes in.
That's true.
Okay. So we have the best of both worlds. We have some negative script, and now we have a version of Tua who's not just simply going to self-sack.
He's not going to get sacked. Seriously, the second they get down by 9 or more points.
He can move a little bit, and he showed a little bit of that in the preseason. So I think that combination, the fact that defenses are so wrapped up stopping Tyreek Hill. I think Waddle, who, by the way, has been struggling with some sort of undisclosed injury for a month now.
Love that.
Yeah. So that's the one reason I'm not taking him in every draft, because that does freak me out. And, let's be honest, he's always injured. So it freaks me out a little bit, but I think the increased volume for everybody in this offense could make the machine go burr. And that includes Achane, by the way, your guy.
There's increased volume, and a guy catches as many balls as Jaylen Waddle in an offense that is as good as the Dolphins probably will be. He's just not going to score 4 touchdowns again. That really hurt his fantasy perception last year, that he was just one of those guys who never scored. Yeah. But the profile of a Jaylen Waddle type player, I mean, that is like usually 7 to 8 touchdowns easily. And like if variance is on your side, 10 or 11 touchdowns. So we do not chase receiver touchdowns is a very dangerous strategy. But I don't think you should look at Jaylen Waddle's Pro Football Reference. Like, guy only scored 4 touchdowns last year. I'm not ever going to look at him in the red zone. I would be stunned if Jaylen Waddle scored fewer than 7 to 8 touchdowns this year too. It's just another feather in his hopefully positive regression cap.
Well, and the Dolphins were extremely run heavy inside the 10 last year. I think that was a product of A, having a lead, and B, they ran pretty pure on those rushing attempts. Maybe that's just a product of the McDaniel system, aka the Shanahan system. It's hard to say, but I would say that you're going to see at least 2, 3, 4 more touchdowns for Waddle if he's able to play a full season.
So my 2 final thoughts are: you mentioned the defensive talent leaving. The defensive coordinator also. It's not you. It's Meade. Vic Fangio left. For the one person ever reverse snowbird migration, went from Miami to Philadelphia.
And the Dolphins' current defense. Yeah, that's funny. The Dolphins' current defensive coordinator, last time he was a defensive coordinator, was in Houston, and Houston had an apocalyptic defense, as in the worst in the league. You
love to see that. And I do worry about the Dolphins and negative game script where it's not actually a good thing.
Right. It could backfire if Skinnier Tua is still just going to fall down every time he sees an oncoming rusher, then it's a problem. But
the Dolphins were, even last year with a pretty solid defense, they were really good front runners.
Yes.
The second they got behind, it was almost like the defense knew every play they were going.
What does that remind you of? It reminds you of the Niners. Right?
It does. It really, really does, man. The second if Kyle Shanahan had 10% more belief, he would never. The second he gets behind, he's like, "Well, I'm a fraud. I knew it. I friggin' knew it. I knew." Like, dude, you're going to overtime in the Super Bowl. Just calm down. Now it's over. Take the ball. Who cares? Game's over. It doesn't matter. Like, coach, calm down. I'm like, no, the game's over.
Oh my gosh, it actually rings really true.
I know we've gotten really fixated on this with Kyle Shanahan. It's more off air than on air. It's like, he doesn't believe it's like he knows it's a scam. he knows it works. Most of these guys aren't smart enough, but he knows it's a scam.
And if the scam doesn't work perfectly, then you're right. He does throw his clipboard and say, "Okay, fine."
I know. I know. I was like, right. Thought I had to figure it out finally. I guess I didn't. Way to go, Kyle. Coach, you're a really good coach, man.
Right. You're maybe the best coach in the NFL. I mean, take it easy.
You need a little more belief. We need a little more break. Oh, gosh, that was a horrible segue. We'll be right back after this. Fantasy football season just got $1 million better. Create or join a private Yahoo Fantasy League and enter the $1 million NBC sweepstakes. Plus, earn extra entries to win when players on your fantasy roster score a touchdown during an opening weekend game on NBC or Peacock. We have 3 of them. Download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion to learn more. And anyone can make a good pick in rounds 1 through 3, Denny. Round 4 is where it all starts to get real.
Yeah.
And that's the 37 to 48 range. A few of the notable names going here. Rashad White, pass. DJ Moore, smash the draft button. The land of Cooper Kupp, so on and so forth. But who are you taking in round 4?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm very bullish on the Seahawks offense, as now coached by Ryan Grubb from University of Washington, I'm all in on DK Metcalf. You know, if we talk about the bank examiner quite often on the show,
we do.
If Metcalf this is significant time this year, then I'm not even going to fight it.
Nope, me either. I'm going to let him handcuff me. Like, I don't even think he has that power. Yeah, just take me in, dude.
I bought some handcuffs. You can just take me out. I mean, you can film it and put it on the internet, whatever you need to do.
It's like the back of my car is really messy. I don't think I can. Just don't fight it.
So anyway, look, Metcalf is for whatever questions we have about JSN and Tyler Lockett and Noah Fant, we have no questions about Metcalf's role here, which is alpha wide receiver 1. And that's what you get. That's what you saw in one drive for the Seahawks offense where they look like world beaters.
Denny, 1 is more than 0.
We're trying not to get too overwhelmed and too excited about that, but it was something to see. I really like Geno Smith if you're doing super flex or if you're streaming the position or just punting a quarterback, obviously. But yeah, Metcalf. So last year, Metcalf actually had the second highest yards per route run of his career, and it was just barely under his career high. So it's not like he fell off at all. He's still a young guy. I think still has several years in his prime here. And so the problem with the Seattle offense last year was that they could not convert a third down
to save their life, which could be a Geno problem. It had been a Geno problem his entire career.
It could be, but it was fluke. It was very fluky and freakish almost, because you're talking about a team that was top 4 in EPA on early downs, and they just couldn't get it done on third down. And that, as you guys know, that crushes your play volume when you can't convert and keep the ball and maintain the ball and keep that drive going, right? It crushes volume. So the Seahawks, remember, the Seahawks ran the fewest plays of any team in the NFL last year.
That blew my mind the first time you told me that.
Yeah. So if you get these guys up to the middle of the pack, I think DK crushes his ADP, right? If you get him to the top 5 as far as plays go, and there are indications that Ryan Grubb's going to try to run a somewhat fast-paced offense here, which would be in stark contrast to the Petey Carroll years. Then you're talking about Metcalf maybe being one of the more important players in all of fantasy.
If they run an up-tempo system in Seattle, all of a sudden I'm chomping on a cigar, blowing smoke in the bank examiner's face, going, well. You thought you had already picked out a new door you had replaced my front door in your mind, and you had repainted, half the house. And guess what, buddy? Guess what now?
Yeah. Where's my fire pit, by the way?
Exactly. And I know you don't seem like you're working too hard on installing that fire pit now, do you? Well, guess what? I actually want a fire pit, so maybe you should get on it. I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, I'm just gonna go to now.
What you're leaving out is after taking a huge pool of the cigar, you throw up.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I haven't inhaled this much smoke in 15 years. Since the last bachelor party I attended. No, but you can forgive me. But believe me, I am absolutely vibrating with nicotine right now, and I'm a wealthy man because of DK Metcalf.
Yeah, please, DK, one time.
This whole time he's walking away from me, by the way, and I'm very weirdly following him. But to be fair, he's very weirdly in my yard for 3 months. So, right.
Okay. All right. Enough.
I love DK, by the way. You're clinging to the one drive. We're clinging to a lot of things with the Seahawks, but I'm clinging to like the one summer report that they're going to move DK around the formation more.
That's a good report.
Would you not? The Seahawks, we talk a lot about the Titans offense coming into the modern age. The Seahawks might be modernizing even more thoroughly than the Titans. And it's possible no one is getting a better assistant coach upgrade than the Seahawks are at offensive coordinator.
Just to put some numbers to that, over his career with the Seahawks, DK Metcalf has run a slot route on 16% of his routes. So if he's regularly used in the slot, I do think that Lockett, JSN, and DK Metcalf will be on the field a lot together, and I think they're going to be used almost interchangeably. I think the Bears are going to be similar, by the way. I don't want to get off track here, but so if you get Metcalf, some slot routes, some easy middle of the field stuff, that boosts his weekly floor a lot.
I love DK Metcalf. I love DJ Moore in this round, but I think I was a little surprised, Denny, for the 4th round, you didn't pick Malik Nabers. He is probably my favorite 4th round pick because just that kind of target volume, or at least what we're hoping in the 4th round. Even with the aforementioned fears that I've had that the target quality might be so low that the volume does not matter. This Nabers' ADP never really got steamed up. You just got a guy. I mean, I think in a fiasco season, Malik Nabers is getting 120 targets.
Yeah.
And very realistically, he's getting 150 to 160. That's a lot for a rookie, even a top 10 rookie. And I just don't see how it doesn't happen if he stays healthy. And again, maybe the targets are so bad. They're like, yeah, wow, cool. But I love Malik Nabers in the 4th round too.
I do too. I struggled here because I was trying to, stay in the parameters of our little game here.
Yeah.
I end up with Nabers and Metcalf on a lot of teams because I will reach for one and then take the other. So I don't want folks to think that I'm hammering Metcalf over Nabers.
Yeah.
You get them. You simply get them both.
Simply get them both is what Denny Carter is. In the round 5, you say simply get Kenneth Walker, though. We're talking about how much we love the Seahawks and their upgraded passing attack, and very curious.
I was trying to work some running backs. I mean, if I were to do this, honestly, I would have no running backs in the first 10 rounds. Okay, as my favorite picks. My favorite picks. Okay, I take them grudgingly, but yeah. So Ken Walker, this coaching staff does not see Ken Walker the same way Pete Carroll saw Ken Walker, which is like, a big play guy, but a guy who should not be treated as a workhorse, should definitely never catch a pass. I don't think that's the way he's going to be treated here. And that potential has not been incorporated into his ADP at all.
I totally agree.
So as far as running backs go in this range, I don't really see anybody who can compete as far as upside goes with Ken Walker.
I've been loving Ken Walker as my RB2. Like, again, although I'm not as extreme as you and Kyle, I mean, I'm very receiver focused the first 5 rounds, but somewhat frequently still coming out with 2 running backs. And just very frequently the second running back is Kenneth Walker. And another factor too is, I mean, this might not mean anything because there's only so much time to talk about players in the month that training camp exists. Did you hear Zach Charbonnet's name like one time the entire summer?
No,
like,
he was banged up a little bit. And his, the coaching staff has not really talked about.
They haven't talked about him at all. It doesn't seem like he's making a run. Yeah,
right. It's not a 1-2 punch. It's not thunder, lightning, whatever. I don't even know who thunder. I don't know who would be thunder and who would be lightning. But I don't think Charbonnet is a guy who's going to come in and just ruin everything like we kind of thought last year.
Yeah.
Also, honestly, Charbonnet was really bad in the games that he started.
He was bad. Again, maybe it was the sequencing of the Seahawks offense. Maybe better sequencing, better play design. Zach Charbonnet, who can run a dude over, will be better. But he seems like he has faded as a threat big time to Kenneth Walker. So I love Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, just real quick on Walker. I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but just as far as the running backs going in that range, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Rashad White, I am not even blinking. I am taking Ken Walker over those guys every time. Aaron Jones is another one. Zero possibility I'm taking Aaron Jones over Ken Walker.
I had to take Alvin Kamara last night. It's a long story, but
I hope it is.
Listen, man. I mean, Alvin Kamara's backup is essentially like an elderly pensioner.
It's Taysom.
You're actually right. That is insane. I'll keep it receiver focused, and I'm going to go with the Devin Achane of wide receivers. We're so boom bust. The downside couldn't be more obvious, but the upside is so self-evident. I'm going to say George Pickens in the 5th round. I've been really, really sweating the Brandon Ayuk. Will he or won't he? It seems definitively won't he at this point. George Pickens at the very end of the 5th round. But I cannot, even though, man, I was talking earlier about how much Arthur Smith loves to make things Neolithic. Like, that's a concern for George Pickens. But
it
is. I feel like I talk about this concept all the time. He's a matchup flipper. Like, he's going to have weeks where he donuts me. But, like, he has weeks then where he single-handedly wins my matchup with 3 catches because it's for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I love that in the 5th round.
Yeah, that's his profile. I'm hoping, he survived the Brandon Ayuk soap opera, which is nice because he gets to be the clear-cut number 1. With Ayuk in the fold, definitely would not have
It's over. If Ayuk's in the fold, it's like not a bit. It's over for George Pickens.
But I did want to mention, I looked this up earlier today. So Deontay Johnson, I've kind of forgot. He missed a few early season games last year. And in those games, George Pickens saw 48% of Pittsburgh's air yards and 30% of the targets.
Oh, man.
That's like mega, what did they say? Giga alpha type profile. So, I'm not saying he's going to have a 30% target share throughout the season. Yeah, but maybe. I mean, and then you have to consider in an Arthur Smith offense, 30% target share is not really something to write home about.
No.
But I have warmed up to him after the Ayuk situation blew over.
You know what I am 100% confident in? It kind of became like a subtle, like passive aggressive thing on Twitter last year where all like the film bros and like ball knowers Like fantasy managers just don't know what they're talking about. Arthur Smith is actually good.
I know.
Guess what will be revealed this year? He's not.
Good.
No, he is not and never will be. If for no other reason, he insists on only taking jobs where they don't have a quarterback. Like this seems like an obsession with art. I can win with these guys. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You don't need to. Oh my God, Denny's carbon monoxide detector going off. Don't worry about it. I can win, and then I don't. I go 7-10 every single year. All will be revealed.
It could be that Arthur Smith doesn't want a good quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. He comes into these jobs and like Art, do we need to upgrade Taylor Heineke? And he's like, absolutely not. I can win with these guys. I know how to do this. I made Ryan Tannehill good one time, and I know how to fix this. I can fix this. And there are coaches that really do have that mindset. Like, I don't need don't waste resources on quarterback. I got this. And Art is wrong. He does not.
Is Tannehill in the league?
No, he will sign somewhere. He's gonna be like this year's Flacco, it appears.
No, it's not going to be the Flacco.
No, it won't be the Flacco experience. Denny, round 6, picks 61-72. Kyle Pitts, baby, DeAndre Swift, Mondre Stevenson. Who are you liking in round 6, the 61-72 range?
Yeah, this is a weird dynamic we have going with David Montgomery, which is the guy I picked, because again, someone I've warmed up to because of the immense what I see as contingency value, along with he has 2 things going for him. I think he's a top 10 running back if Swift goes down. You don't think that. That's fine. You're wrong, but you don't. But you also get some a weekly floor from him. I mean, he's not just a contingency play. No. He's also the 1B option in a very run heavy Detroit offense. So when you build your teams like I try to, and you come to this part of the draft and you have 4 really good receivers and maybe 3 really good receivers and a tight end, Kelsey and Andrews, whatever, McBride, then Montgomery's looking pretty good at that point because he has both going for him. You can use him weekly and he could be tremendous if things break a certain way.
Yeah, the best contingency backs either A, have standalone value, or B, get the entire pie to themselves upon injury. The guy ahead of him, he definitely has standalone value. I read a few too many Sion Vaki tweets this summer and just saw like a few too many Craig Reynolds carries last year to think that the Lions like truly make him an every down player or whatever. But I mean, definitely his touch share will increase. And David Montgomery, he's about as good of a floor pick. If like you're just trying to bank touches and touchdown opportunities, he's about as good of a floor pick as you can.
Look, I think that I have actually beat you in our race for the presidency of DMont Nation.
Yeah, I know. I willingly gave up the title. I served 2 terms.
Yeah, I think I have collected the appropriate number of electoral votes, and I have won.
I served 2 terms, and frankly, we didn't achieve most of our goals. He was good one time ever.
I have won Ohio.
Denny has taken Ohio, and with it, the presidency. Yeah. I have taken in the 6th round Terry McLaurin. This time it counts. One of the ultimate this time it counts players in the history of the NFL. But like the guy, he never played. He never even came close to playing with Kirk Cousins. I don't think.
No.
Has he ever had a real quarterback ever? And again, I try to remember to be careful with alibi making, like excuse making, because if you're good, you don't need an alibi a lot of times. It just happens. But man, just how many bad situations can Terry McLaurin possibly be in? I think he's just the closest thing we're going to have to this year's DJ Moore, or even like marginally improved quarterback play, finally makes Terry McLaurin the player we've always thought he could be. He's a little on the older side. He's older than DJ Moore was last year. But I mean, total lack of target competition. Hopefully that's not bad and doesn't allow defenses to key in on him too easily. But I've really, really started to like Terry McLaurin in the 6th round. And just, I think, when I think this year's DJ Moore, I think Terry McLaurin, like a guy who has had the talent. There's a reason we've hyped him all this time. And it's hopefully even marginally better quarterback play will lead to much, much better fantasy results.
I mean, it can't get much worse, right? He is a guy whose overall upside I don't think is being incorporated into how he's being valued in redraft. I will say though, I foresee, and I think you would agree here, I foresee some frustrating weeks for McLaurin drafters because I think there will be weeks where Washington is very conservative and run heavy, and relies on the legs of Jayden Daniels and the running backs. There's also this thing. I don't know if you've seen this on the X platform, but they're not moving Terry McLaurin at all around the formation, and that's a Cliff Kingsbury staple.
It is
being like, we have one good receiver.
DeAndre Hopkins played one position for Cliff Kingsbury.
You remember? Okay, so that puts me off of McLaurin a little bit.
Why? Why would you hire this guy?
I don't know, man.
He was in Thailand. Just don't call him. You've got one job. Just don't call. Oh, Josh Harris, please stop. I'm calling him. That's it. Please. I don't even know if it'll go through, even though it's going through. This day and age, it's really easy to make an international call. Just don't call him. And he's called him, and he already hired him within 20 seconds.
Yeah, I don't really understand. He was so bad with the Cardinals.
I'm out on McLaurin, by the way. Never mind.
I just don't. I don't see the upside, or I don't see the case for like any of these Washington players outside of Jayden Daniels.
In the 6th round, you're not going to find too many, like, not just clear-cut wide receiver ones, like people who are going to totally dominate their team's target shares. That is what you get with Terry McLaurin in the 6th round. Like, this guy does not have target competition. Like, just straight up doesn't have target competition. Like Zach Ertz or an H-back or Dimey Brown are the target. I mean, Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler's going to get 100.
You're forgetting Luke McCaffrey.
I know. I am. Believe me, I'm forgetting Luke McCaffrey.
Bloodlines, baby.
Luke McCaffrey, that's a really, really good time to take a short break. Luke McCaffrey, show us Jump the Shark. We'll be right back after this. The Tour Championship is here. Watch Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, and more of the top 30 golfers on the PGA Tour face off for the FedEx Cup this week. You can catch it live on NBC Golf Channel and Peacock through Sunday. Now, here's the deal. Producer Adam thought putting the phonetic pronunciation of Schauffele would help me say it better. Instead, it just got way more in my head.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, with your issue with last names needing to be exactly right, you just have no chance with Schauffele.
Here, you tell me how to say it. Like, not just how to say it. Give me. So with Daugherty, I tell people to say like Darty and just hit it hard. How do I say this guy's last name? Tell me how to say it.
I think it's just. I think
so. You're saying Schauffele is what?
Yeah,
you're saying.
It's just 2 syllables. It's just Schauffele.
2 syllables Schauffele. Because you look at this thing, like this last name's a minimum of 5 syllables.
Yeah, that's right. And you got to take the Lee out of it. There's no Lee.
Yeah, Lee. Okay. Schauffele. We're talking 2 syllables. All right.
Hey, there we go.
Guess what? Watch the Tour Championship. Xander Schauffele is going to be in the mix with Scotty Scheffler.
Xander Schauffele with a lot more rostership than I thought in DFS, but nevertheless.
And it's never been more over for Denny. Yeah. Denny, who has never been more back in the 7th round? Some are saying they've never been in the 7th round before because they're a rookie. Who do you not stop taking in the 7th round?
Odunze, this is despite his rise in ADP, very slow and steady rise. I recall about 2 months ago when you could get him in like the 10th or 11th round in best ball, but now it's like the 7th or 8th round. I do see him as a guy who's going to start out the season on the depth chart as a wide receiver 3, and he's not going to end as a wide receiver 3 for this Bears team. ESPN had a good piece today. I posted about it on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, and basically the team has acknowledged like Odunze can be way more than our 3rd receiver. They didn't really say.
They said the same thing about Jameson last year, and it never happened. But
it's a completely different situation.
It is. I've already made the same point many times.
So and Odunze and Caleb Williams apparently have a nice connection. I'm really sorry.
Denny, there's the feature called Silent.
I could put that on. I do have that on somehow. But,
you do.
It's not working.
Anyway. One of your kids is throwing up repeatedly at school, Denny.
Well, sorry. Oh my gosh, my phone is.
Oh, dear God.
He's talking to.
We got Dada's first smartphone.
I turned 41 and I forget. And
How do you buy a ringtone?
Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. All right, so. So there is some chemistry there between Caleb Williams and Odunze, And, you can get him if you play your cards right. You can get Odunze, your wide receiver 5, Like, I just feel like that could be like a massive luxury. You could look back at that and be like, how did my league let me get Odunze as my wide receiver 5?
The reason they let you get Odunze as your wide receiver 5 is because in the same round, Xavier Worthy's going.
Yeah.
In the same round, Rashee Rice is going. He's probably climbing Rashee Rice out of Calvin Ridley, Jaden Reed. Even there's just too many guys with also really good cases. Too many guys who are not number 3 receivers, Denny. And as much as I'm excited about Rome Odunze, and it's not a JSN situation because I keep making the point over and over again. Huge difference between being the number 9 pick and the number 22 pick. Like, first round draft capital is nice, but like lottery pick draft capital, like you're getting the benefit of the doubt from snap 1 of the season. But I still think, at least to begin the year, he's the wide receiver 3. Like, I don't know if that's really controversial either. And I like Rome, but yeah, he's been too rich for me to take, whether it's an expert league or a home league, and I'm just not taking Rome.
I think it'll be, if you have to rely on him as a fantasy starter to begin the season, it'll be probably a little rough, and things won't look right. Won't look very good for him. But as far as route rate goes and targets, but I think by week 4, by week 6, or it's certainly by mid-season, he's the kind of player that strikes me. He strikes me as the kind of player who will make gains on Keenan Allen and DJ Moore as the season goes on.
My favorite from round 7, I will say Rashee Rice. It feels a little bit like cheating because I think he probably will not be fine in the 7th round in a lot of drafts this weekend. As word gets out that I guess he's not getting suspended, which I don't know, man. I still feel like the rug pull could be coming, but Rashee Rice is probably a top 24 receiver if he's active for all 17 games. It might not be as easy as it seems, depending on how good Xavier Worthy is, but just Rashee Rice seems like a total steal in the 7th round to me. And like a guy kind of on the 3-4 borderline, who I think will be a wide receiver too, if he does not get suspended.
Yeah.
But if the NFL is so committed to being opaque in these situations that we just don't know.
It's maddening, but so I see Rice is certainly a better week 1 play than Odunze, and probably a better week 4 and maybe week 6 play. But I also think that he's somewhat capped with his role in that offense.
So once your team is no longer in playoff contention, what you're saying,
right.
Rome Odunze is going to be
right. What I would say is, if you need a starter, you're taking Rice. If you can let your guys sit and develop a little bit, you take Odunze.
Well, there's one thing I know about benches in fantasy football. It's that they're not volatile at all, and the turnover is not stomach churning and horror, night terror inducing.
Yeah. No, not at all.
A lot of people love Rome Odunze. I do too, just not in the 7th round. Denny, round 8, the 85 to 96 range. Who is your favorite pick at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Denver backfield ad nauseum on this podcast over the past 3 months, and I had Javonte Williams in this range because I do think it's very clear that he's back to form after last year not being back to form following a truly catastrophic knee injury in 2022. I mentioned maybe a month ago that in an alternate universe, Javonte Williams is being taken near the top of the 1st round because of how good he was, and I think how good he can be if he's all the way back. And this Sean Payton offense has produced so many valuable PPR backs. Javonte Williams is a good, efficient pass catcher. Julian McLaughlin is going to be an issue. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. He's annoyingly good. But I'm also good with McLaughlin. I think that this team will largely run through those little dump offs from Bo Nix to his running backs. And I think both of them can kind of get there with that sort of opportunity.
Yeah, I think we got too late in the summer and in drafting season for like the ADP adjustment to come for Javonte Williams. And he's just objectively going way too late. In the 8th or 9th. A guy getting this many baked in, locked in touches, like, is not an 8th round pick. They're like a 5th or 6th round pick. And yeah, the competition has never materialized. Like, no one threatened Javonte's early down role. Hopefully now he catches a lot more passes without Samaje Perine. And he's definitely my favorite pick in this 85 to 96 range. Jaylen Warren is in there. Jaylen Warren, about a guy who had like a stone silent training camp, mostly because he was injured. But like Arthur Smith is not leaking positive quotes about Jaylen Warren. I'll say that. Little concerning.
Maybe Arthur Smith stopped any sort of positive quote leakage out of Steelers camp.
Javonte Williams right now is going behind Zach Moss. Like, I doubt you'll see that often this weekend. I think Javonte Williams probably uniformly go ahead of Zach Moss, but the ADP just does not have time to correct enough for the end results of the Broncos running back competition that essentially was not. There was no competition apparently. Javonte just easily won it.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, and Sean Payton said he looks quote completely different than last year, and he meant that in a very good way.
There you go. I always love when somehow I'm unrecognizable 1 year later. That's very interesting.
We didn't hear anything about him struggling last summer, by the way, which is annoying.
What's annoying is having a 9th round pick. There's no good players left. Like the draft should be over after 8 rounds. The ninth round or later doesn't even matter. But we have a 9th round. You still have to take them. Who was your favorite pick in the 97 to 108 range, Mr. Denny Carter?
Yeah, so if I've missed out on Jayden Daniels, and I like Jayden Daniels a lot for fantasy, but I'm not going to reach totally, and especially in a 1 quarterback format. I'll take Caleb Williams in this range. And it's more than just that I think that he's going to be a good passer. It's that I think he's going to call his own number more often than we think. And we saw that a little bit in the preseason. He takes off. He's a, and please excuse the term here, but he's a Mahomes-esque runner where, he knows where everyone is. He sort of just dad jogs for 8 yards and slides. That adds up. That sort of production adds up. And so I could see that playing a factor. We talked with Andy Behrens when he was on the show a couple weeks ago about Caleb's rushing ability and possibly, his rushing potential. And I think that we were in agreement in saying that this is not really being factored in to how good he can be this year.
He's 21 rushing touchdowns over his final 2 seasons at USC. The Bears' goal line back is DeAndre Swift. Like, Caleb's probably going to be scoring unless they're like, this is the NFL, man. You can't be getting exposed to these kind of hits. Like, we're sorry, you're just not doing this. Unless they do that, it seemed like 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns is like all too achievable, which would make a huge difference for a supposed single mono threat. That's a really overlooked factor with Mr. Caleb Williams, who I also love here. By the way, like you said, keep it simple. If a quarterback's good, they're Mahomes. That's
I know. You compare and it turns out that maybe Caleb Williams does look a little bit like
Caleb Williams is the closest we've seen to Mahomes as a prospect since Mahomes. So that even includes before we knew Mahomes was this good. Is a similar type prospect to Mr. Patrick Mahomes. By the way, we're all looking for the guy who made Pat Mahomes not good in college or not as good as his team should have been, and it was Cliff.
It was Cliff Kingsbury.
Good news.
He's failed up at every opportunity.
Yes. But the good news is, so you said if you miss on Jayden Daniels, I'm just going to reveal my 10th round favorite pick now, because you're not missing on Jayden Daniels in the 9th round because he's going in the 10th round, didn't he?
Is he?
So you didn't miss on Jayden Daniels. So you panicked and selected Caleb Williams. I do like the pick, but to you, it's a panic pick. My favorite 10th round pick though is Mr. Jayden Daniels, who I think the central question of the summer is why is Anthony Richardson going literally half as early as Jayden Daniels? It just doesn't make it fundamentally does not make sense. It makes unsense. There's not a good explanation for it. I mean, I guess the explanation is that Anthony Richardson is a more impressive physical specimen, but Jayden Daniels just used his legs to win the Heisman Trophy. Like, I fundamentally do not understand how you take Anthony Richardson in like the 5th round when you can get Jayden Daniels in the
right now
round.
We have 5,000 people yelling at their mobile devices or whatever they're listening to this on saying, Steichen, is that you're forgetting Steichen?
Oh my God. Yeah. Shane Steichen. Wow.
How could you doubt Steichen? Who's Shane Steichen?
He's fine. He actually is pretty good. He's pretty good.
Oh, come on. I mean,
he almost won the Super Bowl.
People act like he's Bill Walsh.
I know. Yeah, it's true.
I don't. someone said, "Oh, how can you hate on Shane Steichen?" First of all, I'm not hating on Shane Steichen when I don't take Richardson instead of taking the guy who's going to easily outscore him 6 rounds later. But and what I'm saying is, okay, is this how we base our? Is this what we do when we select fantasy players? We say, I'm going to base it on the play caller. That's the entire game.
For me, it is with the Seahawks.
I like the talent of the players. I like the profiles of the players. I mean, it is a factor. I think it is a factor. It should be, but just to be like Steichen. Steichen
is not a mic drop end of argument talking point like that. Yeah. Do you have a second point?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
So, I can't. I mean, they're all gonna be laughing so much. The best ball guys, like Crane gets another $2 million because of Anthony Richardson. Is Crane even in on Anthony Richardson? I actually have no idea.
I don't think he's all the way in. I know that, a writer who I respect a lot, Ben Gretsch, who has a great newsletter in Stealing Signals, has expressed some skepticism on Richardson. And maybe you should listen to old Ben.
But if he hits, like, we're never going to hear the end of it. Like, oh, it's funny. No wonder you're poor. Like,
oh, yeah. No, I mean,
do you really know that I'm poor? I don't know if you know that.
I'll have to delete all accounts.
Yep, delete even your precious. I'm not looking into your alt accounts, but yeah,
threads.
Denny's threads has been deleted. It's the toughest day in the history of the Carter family. In the 9th round, by the way, I like Brock Purdy also. I like Brian Thomas as essentially a 0 ADP for like. Every year, there's 1 or 2 real-life first-round receivers that just don't really catch on in fantasy. And then by like week 3 or 4, it's like obvious that was an enormous mistake.
Right.
I think that could be Brian Thomas. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence is a good enough arm to get him the ball. But I think Brian Thomas could be a 9th-round steal. Who do you think, though, is a 10th-round steal, Denny? Your final best pick of the first 10 rounds.
Oh, man, Jameson Williams, to me, is just so easy to take here. I actually think that his involvement, reading more of Lions beat writers and what the coaches are saying about Jameson Williams' involvement and how he's going to be used, I actually think that Jameson Williams' involvement could be something of an issue for Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown, in that they won't have. It's possible that they won't dominate have a 50% combined target share.
I've wondered about this, especially with regards to Amon-Ra.
Yeah. So I think, they want to get Jameson Williams involved. They want to scheme him up touches, and he happens to be the fastest guy on the field at any given point. And Jared Goff is actually not bad, looking at the numbers, not bad at the deep ball when he tries it, which is not that often.
No, when they perfectly set up play action for him, he's good at it.
And so what I'm looking for in any receiver, whether I'm taking them in the 1st round or the 10th round, is a guy who has some short area involvement along with the opportunity to catch downfield shots. I think that's what you have in Jameson Williams. I do think I can kind of see it in my mind's eye. Jameson Williams could very well be like the talk of fantasy football world after week 1. Like, I think it could be that sort of usage where you're like, whoa, wait a second. So this guy's running 90% of the routes. He got 3 carries. His ADOT was like 10. That's not what I expected. So if you're building your roster in a way where you're prioritizing running backs early, you got to get Jameson, I think.
Taking a lot of Jameson. It seems like such a fanciful outcome, but it just really isn't. They have been talking that up. They need that. It's just a role they need so bad in their offense.
Yeah.
And like he was never drafted to just be like a role player. He was drafted to be, you're not drafted to be a role player as the number 12 overall receiver. And it's taken a long time. But JMO, he's the classic guy where maybe we should not unsee what we've already seen. And he'll just always be like this super frustrating, flawed player. But there are so many indications to the contrary that he is going to be the 3rd-year breakout this year.
I do hate to buy into narrative to this extent, but I'll say this. Everything that we've heard, including from Ben Raven, who was nice enough to join us on our NFC North preview, says that Jameson Williams is very serious about his job for the first time.
Yep.
And as disappointing as that might be to hear that it took 3 years, it's nice that it happened. I think we have to, as fantasy drafters, we have to recognize when that clicks for a guy with that sort of skill level.
By the way, we have to recognize, I forgot that Russell Wilson has won the Steelers starting quarterback job, and that you desperately wanted to give your spiel on it. What's the deal with that? Russell Wilson is the starter. We say every week on Galaxy Brains, it doesn't matter. You said he's going to get benched after one honorary snap in week 1. Stay tuned for this week's Galaxy Brains. What does it mean that Russell Wilson's been the named starter of the Steelers, Denny?
Yeah, I wrote about it on Rotoworld if folks want to check that out. Just the brief version here. I think you're talking about a lot of short throws. In the preseason, Russ's average depth of target was 5.8. Last year, he had the 3rd lowest air yards per attempt. So, we are talking about a lot of dump offs. I think that is probably good for one or both of the running backs. Probably not for Pat Freiermuth, since he's not really running a lot of routes in the preseason. It seems like a rotational player at this point. And maybe that means that George Pickens can get some intermediate involvement. So that's what I would say about that.
Check it out, rotoworld.com. We got a lot. I've got my last minute rankings coming this weekend. We got an article up similar to this podcast concept on the guys we cannot stop drafting. That should be dropping on Friday. So a lot of end stage draft content coming this weekend. Of course, the Rotoworld Draft Guide available as part of the Fantasy Life Plus bundle. Go and get that. Go and get everything. Have success in your drafts. We're in regular season mode next week. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back soon, including on Friday in a live Q&A at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Join us.